How you doing? Welcome to Speaking in Your Basement. Today I want to talk about something really interesting. It has to do with taking off armor. It has to do with listening, and it has to do with something we're going to be talking about a lot long term, self-communication. We'll touch on all of that. So the idea of armor, we've got emotional armor essentially. You say mental emotional armor, hidden armor, internal armor. Anytime someone gets attacked physically, there's a certain amount of the fight or flight response that goes off, and there's some kind of covering or shelling up or trying to avoid physical damage. Instinctive response. The same thing happens when we get emotionally attacked or mentally attacked, where someone's taking a shot at us. Now, there are situations where it's like a polite discussion or polite debate where it's easier to let some of it down. But you can see even in this, most people tend to come out guns blazing, come out with the attacks. And that's part of the challenge of the armor. The real challenge of the armor is you need to be able to do both. You see, there's some people you absolutely need to have your armor on, your shield up. You need to be prepared for attack when you're around them. But if you ever want to connect with anybody, if you ever want to become a really good friend with someone, if you want to connect with, wife, husband, lover, whatever, if you want to have that person be in that close space, a necessary component of that is vulnerability. To be able to even reach them requires you to lower your shields, to drop your armor. And part of the reason for that is it's going to be challenging just to get them to be comfortable with you talking to them on this intimate level. So you can expect to encounter bumps along the way. If you don't have the ability, or you haven't gotten used to the process of opening yourself up, letting that armor down, then every time you encounter a bump, there's going to be a shot back. It's going to seem like a defense mechanism. You're going to defend against that defense, and it's going to be back and forth. And you're unlikely to get anywhere that way. But if you can actually put it down, if you can actually drop it for a moment, and a lot of that is just what we've been talking about. It's listening. It's really paying attention. It's knowing you're going to have a response, knowing that you're going to feel some anger, being ready for it, and being saying, okay, and do your best to just keep listening. And like, what else? And like, okay, I understand that you feel this way. What else? And just keep looking, keep searching, be open to it. And you should be very cautious with whom you attempt to do this with. People, close family members, children, really good friends, whoever you're hoping to have a romantic relationship with. If you can't go to this place with them, that'd be a good reason to not pursue a romantic relationship with them. But you got to be very cautious where in your life you choose to do this. But your life is going to be very dry if you don't do this anywhere. It's going to be much richer to the degree you're able to do this, even with only a few people. And that's probably what's realistic, or relatively few people you can do this with. Part of the reason it's challenging is that you have you that you got to contend with, and you really, part of the self-communication, part of the relationship with yourself. It's weird being in a relationship with another person because it's almost three people, right? It's you, it's them, and then it's you again. Because all your feelings that haven't been handled from the past are going to come up whether you're conscious of them or not. And one of the ways to handle them is to become more conscious of them. Now, they may not ever go away. It's like you can spend all your life meditating on anger and you may just scratch the surface. You still got a life to lead. But when you actually look at yourself, you actually start to get a little more honest with you, where you're at, how you feel, what's happened in the past, what was okay, what was not okay, what would you like to happen in the future. Just face those emotions. They're there. They're not really, we call them negative when they're unpleasant or they seem to lead to destructive behavior, but really they're only negative in the sense that they don't feel good. But it's okay. Sometimes life doesn't feel good. Some of the best things you can get out of life require you moving through a little bit of not feel good to get to a much deeper satisfaction on the other side. So when you find something in you that doesn't feel good, that's actually good. It may not feel good. but it's actually a good step. Now you know it's there. Your lack of awareness is of no benefit to anyone at all. And you can only suffer so much lack of awareness. You can't be aware of everything. But the more you can get aware and clear on what's going on in your life, both externally and internally, the better you'll be for you. And once you're better for you, you'll be better for everyone else that you encounter from that point on. There's a deep meaning and a deep satisfaction with facing your challenges and overcoming them, even the ones no one else can see. You'll get more pats on the back for lifting more weight or running the marathon or getting the promotion or whatever else the external world can see. There's nothing wrong with that. Enjoy whatever appreciation you get in this life. But there's a certain satisfaction that you get with yourself when you pay attention to what's actually important. When you start to take your relationship with you a little more seriously. And that's where you can first start to let that armor down. You can get comfortable with where your sensitive spots are. It's interesting, just like I talked about physical combat earlier, sometimes you can bump into somebody or just do something, move in a way that, move in a fast way or a sudden way that startles somebody, and you'll get that same response. Even though no attack is coming, even though you don't intend to fight, you might not have even been paying attention to that person at all. Their defenses go up because they saw something or something happened that triggered that response in them. We have this emotionally too. Certain words, certain tones, certain areas of conversation, if those just get touched, you might feel those emotional defenses go up. Learn to notice what that feels like. When you feel your defenses go up, learn to notice that. And it's okay. It's just an instinct. It's trying to protect you. So it's okay for it to be there. Just again, the long-term goal here is to recognize that may be good a lot of the time, maybe even most of the time, with most of the people you meet. And to the degree it goes up, of course, you have to determine that as well. But at least with some areas in life, and start with you, at least with yourself, at least when you're trying to be really honest with yourself, be willing to let that down. And when it comes up, okay, it's coming up, and that's fine. And when you get that comfortable process with yourself of like, looking at this area gets me uncomfortable, that's okay. We won't go too far. You can kind of, gently talk yourself into it. We won't go too far. You do this really with anything in life. If you're trying to push yourself further in the gym, okay, we don't have to do 3 extra reps this time. We'll do 1 extra rep. That's it. If we can't get that 1 rep in, that's fine. We're just going to go a little bit further. And that's all you have to do. Be willing to go a little bit further. And when you have this willingness to go a little bit further with yourself, to let the armor down, to explore the area that's uncomfortable, then when it comes time to do that with another person, you've actually done it already. You're now more experienced. You can actually navigate those waters where you start addressing emotionally challenging issues with other people. And again, the big thing is to just be there. Just try to understand. Understand how they feel in that situation. Understand what's coming up for them. They may not see it clearly. None of us see it clearly. You be the person who wants to see it as clearly as possible. Not tell them what's what. Not defend yourself. Because again, if you're going to this place, we're assuming this is a person you care deeply about, and it's worth a little bit of discomfort that you're going to have to go through because you're going to have to encounter their defense mechanisms and not counter. You can't come back at them. You have to be willing to navigate those waters without returning fire to get to the heart of the issue. You may not be willing to do that with everybody, and that's fine. That's fine too. Again, start with yourself. Get there with yourself. Get to that place of comfort and satisfaction of being able to face uncomfortable things with yourself. And then you'll gradually get better at doing it with other people. There's also a really interesting freedom that comes with this, sort of an emotional release and freedom of tension that comes with covering some uncomfortable areas with yourself. You cover that, you just have a more of a deeper satisfaction and acceptance of yourself. And when you go around, that's pleasant to be around. People that aren't constantly at war with themselves are much easier to be around. They set off our fight or flight response, much less. There's people that you're around, and you don't even have to look at them. They don't have to look at you. They're just in the room, and you're already, what's going on? You already feel like maybe you should leave the room or move to another seat or something. That's a severe example. There are those folks out there. Well, when you go in the other direction, when you start lightening up these little tensions, when you start resolving these little battles you have within yourself, when you start facing these things you're afraid of, there's a certain satisfaction that comes from that. There's a certain lessening of the tension. You can still have the excitement come up when you need it. You can still have it come up in positive ways and in challenging and fearful situations to the degree you need it. It's not like the fight or flight response goes away. But the constant being pulled in multiple directions by everything you should be terrified of, that starts to calm down. And you become a very settling presence for people. That's very satisfying too. So this is a core element of self-communication, a big piece of communication. In fact, the biggest thing that goes on in communication is nonverbal. It's not about the words you say. It's not to say the words you say aren't valuable. They are. But when you develop that presence, now there's things you learn about body language which are absolutely powerful for communication. There are things you learn about tone which are absolutely valuable for communication. If you get this, it's bigger than just about anything else. When you get the ability to come to a more satisfying place with yourself, when you can let that armor down a little bit, you can really listen to yourself. You can really listen to the pain of the past, even though it's going to be uncomfortable. You can face it and accept it. When you can do that, you come to a place where you're a powerful influence as soon as you show up. You're interesting as soon as you walk into the room. And that gives you the ability for the people you want to do this with to navigate the challenging waters of their emotions and to stay there long enough to help them get a little more clear and to open up and connect with you. And even if they don't open up and connect with you, if they just get a little more clear in their life, it's similar to the process you did with yourself, just perhaps a little less consciously. They can let go of some things that might have been emotionally upsetting them before, and now they can see the situation a little more clearly. And when you see the situation more clearly, it feels a lot better first, and second, any action you then decide to take is going to be dramatically more effective. So lowering your armor, listening to yourself, self-communication, that's the start. And then it blossoms into the communication with other people. I'm Ben Langley. Thank you very much for spending some time with me today. We'll talk again soon.